This is a Leapmotor C10 and it's coming to Malaysia very soon. Now we've already seen this car at the 2024 Malaysia Auto Show, but that was a left-hand drive model. So really this is the first time we'll be seeing it in right-hand drive here in Malaysia before its launch next month. So join me as we go and take a closer look. Now, in case you don't know, Leapmotor is a Chinese EV brand that was first founded back in 2015. The reason that you're only hearing about it now though is because in 2023, Stellantis bought a 20% stake of the company and formed a joint venture called Leapmotor International to bring the brand overseas. Today, this brand is already now available in Europe, but it's now expanding towards India and Asia Pacific. And Malaysia will be the first country in the region to launch the brand with this car, the C10, which is their first global product. Now, the C10 is technically a mid-size or D-segment SUV, and to give you a rough idea of how big it actually is, this here is actually about the same size as a Tesla Model Y or a Mercedes-Benz GLC. Outside of China, the C10 is only available as a fully electric model. But in terms of design, I think this here really does look least like an EV. Perhaps it's because of the design of the 20-inch wheels or the massive air intake right up in front at the bottom of the bumper. But in general, I think it's still a very clean, very rounded design, and it's also very upmarket, particularly because of that angle over there, because it just reminds me so much of the Porsche Cayenne. But anyway, it's won a lot of international design awards, so who am I to say anything? In terms of design highlights, you get the angel wings full-width headlights right up in front, the retracting door handles, blacked out roof rails, and of course, as with all Chinese SUVs these days, a full-width taillights as well. Now, sitting inside here, I can only describe the cabin of the Leapmotor C10 as minimalist because everything is basically a straight line aside from a little bit of curved profile on the dashboard itself. There's also basically zero buttons in here aside from some Tesla-style steering wheel scroll wheels as well as the gear stalk and the indicator stalk right behind it. Even the window switches are not your usual window switches because they're just these little toggle things that move forwards and backwards. Everything else is controlled via this central infotainment display that's 14.6 inches, and your driving functions are displayed on this 10-inch instrument cluster. Now, these screens here, they do actually work pretty well, which Leapmotor says is because it's powered by a Snapdragon chip. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are not available just yet, but it might be coming through a wireless software update, so keep your eyes peeled on that. But for now, what I can tell you it definitely has is an ambient lighting strip down here on the dashboard, a wireless charging pad, as well as heated and ventilated seats for the front two seats. Now, because there are no buttons inside here, Leapmotor has actually emphasized a lot on something called the Leapmotor Assistant, which yes, is another voice command assistant. The difference here though is in terms of functionality. There's something called Intelligent Wake Up Mode, which means it'll actually react differently depending on who asked the question. There's something called Continuous Conversation, which means you can fire off multiple commands at the same time or even interject if you need to. And for certain commands, you can even skip the key phrase entirely, which means I can do things like increase the temperature.
Okay, temperature increased.
And it'll do it automatically. But how well does it recognize my Malaysian English? Well, let's try it out. Hi Leapmotor.
Here.
Close the sunshade.
Okay, sunshade closed.
Open driver window.
Okay, window at driver's side open.
Decrease fan speed.
Already the minimum air volume at present.
Navigate to Penang.
Found the result. Should we go now?
Okay.
Okay.
Now, while we're here at the navigation page, I have to say this maps here is actually very well integrated because it's got all of your points of interest already programmed inside. You've got your traffic information, but most importantly, there's also built-in information on all of your charging stations, and it'll actually tell you where to stop to charge in case you go on a longer journey, like now we're going to Penang. As minimalist as the cabin is though, I have to say that it does actually feel quite upmarket, and everything also feels very well put together, and especially it does feel very comfortable in here. I mean, just check out how soft these seats are. The comfort aspects of this car also move on to the rear seats because first of all, the space performance in here is just next level. This seat here is adjusted to my usual driving position, and just check out the amount of knee room I have over here. And leg room is also very good, especially thanks to the flat floor, so you can really just move your feet around, especially if you're seated in the middle seat. In terms of headroom, even though there's this massive glass roof up top that really opens up the entire interior, it really still has a lot of headroom over here, and shoulder room is pretty decent as well. You have all of your creature comforts like your aircon vents over here, as well as USB charging ports. But the most important part that makes this place a very nice place to sit in is just the depth of this seat base. Just check out how long it is. And when I'm seated normally, this thing here extends almost all the way to my knees, so it really does give me a lot of support, and it's very nice for long distance journeys, especially since you can also recline the rear back. Now, Leapmotor really does emphasize that this is a very family-friendly car. So this space at the back here really is perfect for those who need to carry a baby seat, especially those rear-facing ones. And there's also another thing called Text, which is this upholstery over the entire car. It's made out of silicone, and apparently in China, they market it as chewable for the babies. Now, I don't know if you really want to chew on this, but I can tell you that it really is very soft, and is supposedly safe for the baby skin. As for the boot space, well, Leapmotor hasn't exactly given us the exact specs of the boot space over here, but it does look pretty spacious. I would say this is about 400 plus liters of space, and the boot floor is also split into two, so you have some additional underfloor storage over here, and another portion here to keep all of your charging cables and V2L cables. You get two color options inside, either this grey color or a very brown color. But for the exterior, you get 5 different choices. Leapmotor hasn't announced any of the specifications of the C10 here in Malaysia, but we do know that it will come in a single motor variant, which means based on international specs, it should give you about 231 horsepower. Now, there's no official specs on the battery as well, but since this car has about 80% of battery left and about 294 kilometers of range, I would say this is probably the smaller battery, which is about 52.9 kilowatt hour in size. We don't know yet if the bigger battery will also be coming into Malaysia, but here is what you can expect for now. Now, we also expect this car to be pretty nice to drive, especially since the suspension is tuned by Maserati thanks to its Stellantis family ties. Aside from that, it also has a cell-to-chassis battery technology, which directly builds the cell right into the car itself to give it more torsional rigidity, so it should help with your handling and stability. But of course, we only get to drive this car around this parking lot, so we really don't know how it's going to drive, so you just have to wait on that. Pricing information for the Leapmotor C10 has not been announced just yet. That will have to wait until next month when this car is officially launched. But Stellantis Malaysia has previously hinted that it will actually be quite affordable, around the ballpark of other popular EV SUVs here in Malaysia. So what do you think this year should be priced at? Drop your guesses in the comments below. But for now, if you need more info on the Leapmotor C10, as always, head on over to AutoBuzz.my.